Friends, Aaron here. There's lots going on, lots to talk about, but this little video was just basically my extended comment to Patriot Farm on a video that you put up about the chicks, the beauty of life, the little chick that was healthy and the little chick that was dying. And that reminded me of two things. One thing, kind of secondarily, it reminded me of is just about some of the stories that I've read or watched people give testimony about their sons or daughters that were born with some sort of a challenge, a birth defect, a disability, autism, or especially like I think I've watched a number of stories about people whose kids were Down syndrome, and how there's a lot of testimonies about how those are special sons and daughters and add a lot to the lives of the parents, and they don't regret having them. And of course, there are people out there who would think that those are lives that aren't worth being here with us. The other thing I thought of just kind of took me back to being an 11-year-old boy. And, I was a soft-hearted, sensitive boy in a sense, I suppose. Hopefully life hasn't hardened me up too much. It certainly tried. But we lived on, something like a couple acres, I guess. It was in the suburbs, but right at the end of a dead-end street by some railroad tracks. And we had wild raspberries growing up the bank, and we had an apple tree and a grapevine. And it was just the drainage ditch, which wasn't the cleanest water, but the water running through. So there was always toads and frogs, and we had a snapping turtle, and I spent a lot of time hanging out over there. That was about as country as you could get where we were. And I was kind of hunting around there one day, and I saw something moving in the underbrush, and I kind of snuck up on it, all I thought stealth-like, and it wasn't moving. And then when I got real close to it, I noticed it was a little baby rabbit. And in fact, when I got real close to it, not only did it not run away, it kind of dragged itself closer to me. And I looked, and I could see that it had either broken legs or it had been born with deformed legs, and it couldn't walk. And so even at 11, or I think I was probably about 11 years old, I've realized what had happened, and that was that little rabbit was born with a defect. It was born with little legs that didn't work, or some kind of a weakness or ailment or something that didn't allow it to walk. And its mother left it there to die, because obviously the mother rabbit couldn't care for it. So, I scooped it up, and this was on the weekend, and I remember showing it to my mom, and she was very helpful. We got some milk to feed it, and I made a little box for it, and I kept that thing near me. I would say it was probably on a Saturday, so it was probably the whole weekend, Saturday and Sunday. I remember, of course, I watched TV when I was a kid, and I always tell you I'll beat this dead horse till there's no horse to beat. But I don't watch any television. But I was watching cartoons, I think, and sitting on the couch, kind of leaning on my arm, and I had the little bunny next to me, and it'd just snuggle up against me, and I know I would shift a little bit and move, and if I was it wasn't touching my arm, it'd kind of make a little squeaking noise and crawl back to me. And so it was it was a little heartbreaking thing for me to see the little thing suffering like that. And I didn't think ahead, I guess, as to whether or not it was going to live too much that I can recall. I think mostly what I did was just try to care for it in the moment as best as I could. So I pretty much probably stayed up all night, didn't sleep very well. Now on Saturday, so Sunday, I know for sure my mother had told me that I need to, go to bed, sleep in my bed, and because I got to go to school in the morning. She probably knew the little thing was going to die by that next day, but she wasn't going to let me not go to school. So I was afraid that I would roll over on it while I was sleeping, so I put it in its little box, and I was pretty sad about that. I I slept probably pretty soundly because I didn't sleep much over the weekend. And when I woke up in the morning, it was dead. And, it's a tiny little deformed bunny that who knows how long it would have lived. Probably not very long. But your story reminded me how you say you just like to kind of hold them until they go. About how I wasn't even really all that sad that the little rabbit died, because as much as I probably had some glimmer of hope that maybe it would, I knew better, and it wasn't a shock to me that it died. But I felt really guilty, I suppose, and sad that I let it die alone in that little box instead of next to me. Yeah, so I had a rough day at school. I was in a bad mood. I was maybe not necessarily grumpy, but I was sad and trying to hide that I was sad. So I suppose I was grumpy. And I had friends asking me what was wrong, and I would just tell them to be quiet and leave me alone. And they wouldn't understand. So that's all. I don't know if there's any point to that, except that I was gonna leave you a comment on your video and tell you what I thought, but I figured it was going to take me too long to type all that, so I guess I appreciate what you had to say. And all life that the Father has created is, it's beautiful and it's valuable, and I think that people could watch that and think, well, how would you maybe, cull a chicken to have dinner, to feed your family, but death is part of life. We're all going to die. And I'm not a vegetarian by any means. But the cruelty with which animals are treated in this world is certainly not something that would make the Father pleased. In fact, it makes him anything but makes him angry, I'm sure. And shame on us if we partake in that evil. So, for those who raise their animals and take care of them and treat their life with respect, I don't think that's anything but pleasing to the Father, to take that life, to give life to your family. I think it's something we could all question, but I guess my point ultimately is just that death is coming. Now, what do we do? Do we allow older folks to die at home in peace with their family, surrounded by the things they recognize? So many people suffering, and we could get into the reasons why, but with dementia, Alzheimer's, and you put them in this hospital environment surrounded by people they don't know, whereas they could maybe lay in their parlor or their bedroom at home and be cared for by loved ones. Death can be sad and grievous, of course, but a beautiful part of living. It can be, and it's supposed to be. And what matters most is that as long as there is life, that we honor that life. So I appreciate your video. Until next time, friends, I got some stuff I'm working on. I'll post some videos sometime, but busy. So shalom.